When it comes to sharing your side hustle with your boss, is honesty always the best policy? In this video, I'll share when you should tell your boss, when it might make sense not to, and the risks and benefits of letting them know, real or perceived there. But first off, the good news is that the topic of side hustles is a lot less taboo than it was even 10 or 15 years ago. In fact, there are a lot of companies that actively encourage their employees to start businesses on the side. So when should you come clean and tell your boss? First up, when it's required. In certain industries, disclosing outside financial interests is a requirement. You'll see this most commonly in defense jobs, in legal jobs, in government jobs. In fact, most agencies in the federal government are going to have this outside employment and activities page, like this one from the Department of Justice, that spells out what you can and can't do outside of work. But when in doubt, check with your HR department. Next is when your side hustle is public facing. If there's any chance your boss is going to discover your side hustle on their own by Googling you or by stalking you on social media, I think it makes sense to be upfront about it. After all, you want to take ownership of that conversation instead of them making assumptions about what they find online. And it could be as simple as this, like, hey, I've had a couple friends reach out to me for graphic design help, so I'm just going to add that to my LinkedIn. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Pretty innocent, right? You don't have to make a big deal about it. Third, if there could be any perceived conflict of interest. Now, of course, you're not going to start a business that's in direct competition with your employer, but losing clients is a legitimate concern that a lot of bosses have. So if your side hustle is in the same industry, make sure to explain how you're going to keep them separate, how you're separating your business from your day job and honoring any non-compete contracts that you might have signed when you started. Now, a few examples of when you probably don't need to tell your boss. Number one is if your side hustle is in a completely different field. For example, I worked for this giant auto manufacturer, and my side hustle was selling shoes online. There was no realistic way that the two roles could have even been remotely considered to be competitors. Number two is when you're tapping into the so-called gig economy apps. You probably don't need to tell your work that you're moonlighting as an Instacart shopper or an Airbnb host. Three is when your side hustle is super common. Similarly, your employer probably doesn't need to know if you're selling stuff on eBay or investing in real estate rental properties. And even though these side hustles do take time, they're not really perceived as a threat to your work because they're just so commonplace. And then finally, if you're just getting started, I don't think there's much sense in telling your boss about every little side project, and frankly, they probably don't care until you start to see some traction. They don't need to know every detail of how you spend your off hours, because whether you're building a bird feeder for your backyard or building a website for your new side hustle, it doesn't really matter. No employer owns you 24 hours a day, and those that think they do, well, maybe it's time to go look for another job. Now, why are people afraid to tell their boss about their side hustle? Number one is this fear of retribution. I think a lot of side hustlers fear that telling their boss is going to be like committing career suicide. They're going to start to doubt your commitment to your day job. Now, you know your company culture best, but this was definitely a thing at my old workplace where you'd start to see people getting passed up for promotions if they were deemed less dedicated to the cause. Number two is fear of judgment. You don't want to have your boss, pass judgment on your financial situation, especially if you're in a professional environment or so-called white-collar environment. Like, are you so bad with money that you need a side hustle? Is the line of questioning that might happen. And even if it's left unsaid, the perception might still be there. And unfortunately, that's the conclusion that a lot of employers are going to jump to, regardless of the fact that money is just one of a dozen reasons why somebody might start a side hustle. And third is this fear of failure. If you share about your side hustle too early and it doesn't end up working out, is that going to make you look like a failure in front of your coworkers? I think all of those are valid concerns, but there are actually some interesting benefits of telling your boss about your side hustle. And first among those is this newfound leverage. The knowledge that your 9-to-5 is no longer your only source of income gives you a bit more leverage when it comes to workplace negotiations. Does your boss really value your work? Well, they might need to extend a higher salary or some more flexible working hours to help keep you motivated around here. Number two is referrals. So one surprising benefit of telling my boss about my old side business was he started talking about it when we were out with customers. It was honestly a little embarrassing because the website didn't look that great and didn't function amazingly well, but it became this topic of conversation. And if your side hustle is in a non-competitive industry, your boss is just one more source of potential new referrals. For example, my wife does photography work on the side from her engineering day job, and over time she's built up this reputation. She's taken lots of pictures for her coworkers and their families. And then finally, one benefit that a lot of side hustlers experience is this newfound respect from their peers and managers. And I think the reason for that is that the percentage of people who want to start a business someday is a lot higher than the percentage of people who actually do. So there's this level of admiration for those who take the leap. You might start to hear comments like, you know what, good for you. Or, shoot, I had a business idea when I was your age. I just never took action on it. Now, on top of that, seeing the whole financial picture of a business from sitting in the CEO chair of your side hustle, probably going to make you a better employee at your day job. At least it did for me, until I quit. So, does your boss know about your side hustle? Let us know in the comments below why you have or haven't told your boss. As always, make sure to subscribe to the Side Hustle Show and this channel for more money-making ideas and the marketing tactics to grow your business even faster. Cheers!